to start inviting. All right, we're going to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2. What's up, everybody? It's that time again. It's D to the J with the roll away, and I'm live on www.letgoradio.net and on Facebook Live. And today is a special day, not only because it's Wednesday at 2 o'clock, but I have a good friend and a very special guest, Miss Whitney Bailey. And we're going to get into, we're going to bring Miss Whitney on the show. Miss Whitney, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I've been looking forward to doing this one for a while. So my opening question to all my guests is always the same. I want, if you wouldn't mind, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you do. Explain to our viewers on Facebook and on Let Go Radio who you are and what you're all about.
Well, my name is Whitney, and of course I was born with cerebral palsy. I am the content manager for Able Thrive, and Able Thrive is a platform where we provide original and curated resources for people that are new to the disability community. And because of quarantine, I started a weekly podcast called Spastic Chatter, where I interview people from the cerebral palsy community, and we kind of have an uncensored chat, if you will, about what it's like living with this type of disability, and that airs every Monday.
Okay, and how did you make Spastic Chatter come about? What made you say, you know what, I want to reach out to the disabled community, I want to reach out to the community of CP and cerebral palsy, and I just want to bring them in? What made you decide to do that?
Well, working with Able Thrive, our primary focus is spinal cord injury. So it's kind of ironic because I don't have a spinal cord injury, but after doing all my work, I realized that there was a bunch of resources for spinal cord injury, related to podcasts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you search stuff for cerebral palsy, a lot of their resources are geared toward children.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, the children that have CP grow up to be adults, and there's not very many resources for adults out there. So I wanted to create a space just for adults to come together and have a place to chat and just to come as a resource.
You know, it's amazing you say that. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us. Hey, Crystal, how are you? Thank you for coming in. We appreciate all you guys. Leave a comment and let us know that you're watching live on Facebook. Again, we are on www.letgoradio.net, so you can tune in there as well, too. I want to thank all my viewers for coming in as you come in and meet Miss Whitney. One of the things that you just said is there's not a lot of things out there for adults, and it's great for the children, but does it seem like to you, and I want to ask you this, that once you turn, 15 to 18, that you're forgotten as far as as society is concerned with CP being an adult?
Yes, totally. It is labeled a childhood disability. Once for Texas, you age out of the system at 22, and once I hit 22, my resources diminished. I was getting caregiving hours for under the children bracket, and once I turned from a child to an adult. I went from 40 hours a week for caregiving to 9.
Wow.
And so I was like, there's no reason to have a caregiver for like 9 hours. Like, so I just went away with the whole caregiving aspect altogether.
Now, so you needed a caregiver? I mean, are you independent now, or do you have, do you have to have help with a lot of things, or with, with your disability, or?
I would say like 95% independent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a unique case. From birth to age 18, I had to rely on a caregiver to do basically everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was 18, I got a vacuum pump. And long story short, that turned my world upside down in the best way possible, and I became completely independent because of that. But it was kind of like a newborn baby. Like I had to learn how to live completely independent. So I was learning things that I should have learned when I was a kid. I was learning how to do them at 18.
Right. And I totally understand what you mean. Now, the baclofen pump, I want to talk a little bit about that. Hey, Lena, thank you for joining us. Hey, Susie, thank you for joining us. We are glad to have you with us. Because I'm on baclofen myself, and baclofen, for those of you who don't know, is a muscle relaxer that works on the entire body. It is in pill form. It is also in a pump form. Now, I myself have heard a lot of stories about where the baclofen pump has gone defective, and I've heard very few success stories on that. So you say that it turned your world upside down in a good way because it allowed you to be totally independent. Would you mind just sharing? Hey, Kimberly, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about how the baclofen pump has helped you to become independent?
Well, for those of you that have not seen me in like person in like video form, you can kind of tell in my voice right now. But I am like, when it comes to spasticity, I would say that I'm like in the moderate range. Like I'm high up there in spasticity. It was it was very difficult for me to do certain things. So what the backspin did for me is it loosened me up enough that I could gain muscle. So when I first got the pump, a week into the hospital, it allowed my arms to be loose enough to put my shirt on for the very first time by myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's not all glory. Like you have, like the reason why it was so successful for me is because I pushed my body to the limit because that's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like in therapy, I pushed myself to like my breaking point, so that because that's just the kind of person I am, and I still kind of have to work at it. Like I have to work out every day, because if I don't work out, then I lose what I've already gained.
Right.
And then spasticity gets worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But you're talking about like the horror stories. I've had my fair share of, like, I've gone through withdrawal and had to spend 2 months in the hospital getting it figured out. Like it's not a be all cure all. Like it has its setbacks. So it just depends on the person. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Let me comment on something you just said. Now, is there set amount with the pump that they give you as far as to like how many times it's released per day? How does the pump work like that?
So I have. So they start you on a low dose
Mm-hmm.
of forgive me if I get the terminology wrong. I'm not big into the medical field, but they uh they start you off on a low dose of like milliliters, and you're constantly getting that dose delivered to your spine, and they start you off like really low. Like I think I was started off like 90s when I first got the pump 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now now I'm close to 900 milliliters going into my spine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
Now you said you went through withdrawal and ended up in the hospital for 2 months. Was that because of the baclofen pump, or was that?
Um, it was because you have to get it replaced every 6 to 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
and because I got the pump in 2008, there was I had the old style catheter
Mm-hmm.
because they can choose to replace both the pump and the catheter, or they can just choose to replace the pump. And my neurosurgeon chose to replace just the pump, but I had an old style catheter, so
Mm-hmm.
it was more prone to like tears and stuff.
To break
So
down. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
uh, when they replaced the pump, my catheter uh, had like a micro tear in it, so that's what sent me to withdraw. And
Ah, okay, because it wasn't being delivered properly.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then the reason I spent so long in the hospital is I love my surgeon, like I'm not, but she wanted she she wanted to do everything she could not to replace, like she wanted it. She didn't think it was the catheter, like she was going through all these different things when in fact it was the catheter, and once she replaced it I was totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got a couple of comments here I want to read in. Nikki, hey Nikki, thanks for tuning in. Says, I've had the baclofen pump too. I've had it since 2017. Susie said, we had a deep conversation with most of the parents to CP Kids today. Most of their kids have used baclofen to ease up stiffness and spasticity, but it keeps disappearing from the markets, same as I think it's Revolti, and many kids have major regression. Now, I was talking about, I'm on baclofen as well, but I'm on 20 milligrams. I was on it 20 milligrams for 3 times a day, but I actually pulled myself down to 2 because I noticed that, I started gaining weight with it, and baclofen can cause you to gain weight. So, it's good that you've gone, you got through the problems that you had, and it's good to have a medical team. So now you said, you said you've had the pump for like 12 years?
yeah, I turned 18 in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have to replace the pump every 6 to 7 years. Is that correct?
Yes, and I've replaced it once, but I've had 3 pumps because of the withdrawal and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm. And have you ever had a pump go? I think the biggest stories that I hear are the pumps going defective. Have you ever had that happen, or had a problem with the pump?
No, not in that sense, but I had my advice is find a doctor that's very well educated on pump, very well versed, because I when I moved off to college and stuff, I went to a doctor that wasn't very he was very well educated when it comes to spinal cord injury and
Mm-hmm.
pump, but I was his very first patient with cerebral palsy, that had the pump, and he didn't know what to do with me. So like it was, so like when I don't know, my spasticity was just like off the charts with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I switched doctors who he specialized cerebral palsy and the pump, and he told me things that like make sense. That like the medicine, like you're talking about the being defective.
Mm-hmm.
The medicine is inside your body, so like the heat from the pump can, if it stays in there too long, like the heat can make the can weaken the medicine. So like I get filled like 2 weeks before my alarm date because we know that my spasticity will increase because the medicine is not as effective as it if you let it go to the alarm date. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually it does, and that's that. To believe it or not, that's the first time I've actually heard it explained that way. Hey,
Doctor that explained it like that. It makes total sense.
Hey Ben, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. So now, like, did you ever use the pill form of baclofen before you got the pump, or was it always? Mm-hmm. And how did the pill form work for you?
It wasn't. I got relief, but it wasn't like. It was nothing like the pump, like.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, just because I know you personally, DJ, you're just talk about us. Your spasticity compared to mine, you have very low spasticity when it comes, and like I'm very very high.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
It just depends. It depends on your level of spasticity. Like,
was there a like before you went? We got a comment here too. Ben said, let's see. Oh, he had actually a good comment here. This is very interesting. I had the pump when I was younger. And it got infected. See, this is what I was just talked about, and it filled up with spinal fluid. So now I'm scared to get it again. I'm on the pill now, and it works, but there is more of them, the more downs. So I understand what she's saying. So the problem is, and I understand. That's my thing with the pump right there. When you have something in your body that is constantly in your body begins to fight it eventually because it looks at it as a hurtful, I want to say, infection almost. And like that's what my doctor told me, and she wanted, because my pediatrician wanted me to get the pump and actually Botox as well to help with my cerebral palsy, because when I was younger, my spasticity was much worse. But through therapy and I'm on 2 medications. I'm actually on dantrolene, which is one of them. That is a medication that works throughout a muscle group. That is a specific muscle group. And then baclofen, which is throughout the whole body. So those 2 combined work very well for me. But I chose not to get the pump for the reason of that story right now that Ben just told. And I know that's fearful, but that's what happened. So was there a time, did you go through like a trial period of where you were thinking about it? Were you like, should I get this? Should I not get this? How did that go?
Well, I had a very good support system, and forgive me if I get a little emotional, but I had a physical therapist that was kind of like a father figure to me.
Mm-hmm.
He was my physical therapist up until since I was 3 up until I was like 18, and he knew me like no other. Like I said, he was like a father figure to me, and he's the one that pushed for the pump, and he went to he went to every doctor's appointment with me, even if they didn't want him there. So like he knew the pump would be a benefit for me.
Right, right.
So
And
I used his. I just trusted his instinct,
mhm.
and sadly he didn't end up passing away right after I graduated high school. So
Wow.
that might be another reason why it worked so well for me, is because I feel like and on a personal note, I feel like I have to like let his legacy live on. So like that's I attribute my success to what happened to his passing, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, Whitney. And again, I'm going to say something. We talk about on this show a lot. To have a support system and somebody that means that much to you, that's why I talk about Miss Wilson, and Jamie on Cerebral Palsy Sunrise so much, because they're my support people. And to have, the people that watch this show, that come in, that comment every week, that stick with me every week, and that listen to these shows, these stories are going to touch somebody out there that is thinking about, should I get the pump? Should I not? I'm dealing with spasticity. I'm hurting. I'm scared. I don't know if it's going to work or not. You can't let fear control you. And I love the fact that you did that to honor what was basically like your father figure. And I think that's an amazing thing, because you did push through your fear and you got it because you knew that it would work well for you. And I love that, and maybe it would have worked well for me too. And I'm at the point where people have said, you should have gotten the pump. The pump works great. But then you have stories that, that happen, and everything has a good and a bad story. I mean, because you're going to have success and you're going to have failures, but you got to decide for yourself. And I love that you worked through that, and the fact that he went to every doctor's appointment with you, that is awesome. To have a figure in your life that
I didn't know that, like, my neurosurgeon added me after he passed away on Facebook and like on a personal level. And he actually showed up like 10 minutes before my appointment, and they were trying to kick him out of the doctor's office because they didn't want him back there. And he like forced himself in the meeting, and I didn't know that. So she called me, and he was already passed away and everything, so I got a good laugh out of that.
Right, and he was making sure he was back there for you. I tell you, that's powerful. Let me ask you about Botox, because we're kind of on that subject too. Did you have Botox done? Have you ever had that done or talked about it?
Yes, I've actually gotten Botox, and again, forgive me if I don't get this right. I believe it's phenol, where it's like a one step above Botox.
Yes, that is correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've gotten both of them.
How did that work for you? Was that a help as well, or did you continue to get them, or what was the story on that?
Botox helped me tremendously. The phenol bug helped me my legs more. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have to get it after the back of the pump, because the back of the pump worked so well. But I have one mishap from the Botox. Mm-hmm. I now have my doctor hit a tendon when he was doing my hands, and so now I have a gliding tendon in my left hand.
Oh.
From Botox, because he accidentally hit the tendon when he did the Botox injection.
Oh no! And you were like, "Yeah, that was great. Let's not do that anymore. Thanks so much."
That's already my bad. He just made it hurt.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. Nice job. Kimberly said, wow, she's an amazing lady. And she has a question. Does Botox freeze the muscle? Now, I'm going to answer this first, and you can actually go ahead and answer that. Do you believe that, does Botox freeze the muscle?
I don't know how to, I don't necessarily think Botox, I don't know how to answer that because it gets me thinking about the Botox in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know how to. I'm curious about how you would explain it because I'm kind of I don't know how to explain what Botox does.
There's that's okay. There's different types of Botox injections, and again, I'm not in the hey Anthony, thanks for tuning in. There are different types of Botox injections. There's some for the face, some for the legs, some for the back, some for the arms. Now, from what I understand, it does not freeze the muscle. It gets inside of it and allows it to relax to where it may do it for, it's not exactly a freeze, but it's kind of like how can I put it? Because it's also used for like wrinkle reduction, so it can lift the face and tighten it too. Yeah. It kind of tightens it for a second and then slowly releases the muscle to relax. Ben said this, in my experience, no, it did not freeze the muscle, made it really loose, and I could do anything with it. But he said, I did not like that we are all off. Ella. Oh, it numbs it. Okay. Yeah, like it, so it does loosen it. It's much like, if you think of when it comes to spasticity, if you think of a Charlie horse with a muscle spasm that makes your muscle jump, that is what I can closely, hey Ronnie, how you doing, brother? Thanks for tuning in. That is what I can closely relate spasticity to, because spasticity, if I can actually say the word right without tripping over it, it makes your muscle jerk. And it does it sometimes it does it in increments where it spasms. So the Botox allows the muscle to relax and slowly puts the muscle back into its normal form, as it were, if I can say that properly. I hope that explained it well enough, as I'm not Dookie Howser MD, but I did used to watch that show. I love that show. So, I think that pretty much explains it. So, your baclofen pump allowed you not to have to get the Botox anymore, so that's great. And that's a great part of the story. All right, as we get into the next part of our as we get into the next part of the show, the next 30 minutes here, I want to talk about a little bit about Spastic Chatter with you. Now, that is a platform for you and the disabled community to have a conversation about cerebral palsy, and that is kind of an open book, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? You talk about anything and everything dealing with CP on Spastic Chatter.
It's anything and everything.
Mm-hmm. What do you like about it?
I like that it reminds you how diverse our community is. We all have commonalities, but each story is so diverse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that 100%. That's the one thing about platforms with cerebral palsy. There are so many people that have cerebral palsy, and 17 million people have it. And you look at what CP does, and every case is different, but there are similarities with all disabilities, and that's kind of where we have to stop being looked at and labeled as different, because if you take a look at us internally, we function just like everybody else. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like, that's why I love being able to my voice being on this radio platform, to reach out to people to let them know that CP is you know, you're not going to catch it. It's not like a cold. And it's just so, there are people that are so uneducated that makes it, you know, seem like it's something that's so bad. Or you know, and it's not. It's not a disease. It's not a, you know, it does get worse as you get older as far as muscle tightness and, you know, spasticity if you don't stretch and you don't take care of it. But that's with any muscle. If you don't take care of yourself and you don't stretch and you don't bathe and you don't do the things that you need to do, your body's going to break down. People don't realize with CP, bathing is important. And I know bathing is hard for some people because of transfers and movement. And you got to get water in certain places, trying to keep it clean on Let Go Radio. But I'm trying to let you know, it's hard sometimes. But people have to push through. And I love that you said something earlier in the show, Miss Whitney, about pushing your body to the limit. Because a lot of people don't push themselves because things are hard. And, you know, they stop. But Christina just said something I want to read here, and there's a couple of things that have come through. It's so great to connect with others with CP. Thanks for sharing the story. Kimberly said, I hate when people look at you and then say, what's wrong with you? Yeah, that's a common question. And it's one of those things where what would you say, before I get into this, what would you say your most irritating question about CP is, Whitney?
Well, there's not like a one question that I can think of, but I'm kind of like she just said, like when people come up to me and they're just like what's wrong with you? I'm like, they want me to spill my, like, tell them my whole life story, just like randomly meeting me, like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Or like when they talk, like a lot of people talk to whoever I'm with.
Oh yeah.
And that drives me insane. But as you know, I'm a do as I say person and not a do as I do, because my attitude tends to get the best of me, and I kind of get sarcastic, and I don't handle it in the way that I know I should handle it. 'Cause I know that I should educate them, but there are days that I just don't want to educate.
You know, I think we all have those days where there's a switch in the back of my brain when and I'm going to say this live on Let Go Radio. Let me read Ben's comment before I say that. My biggest thing about having CP is the way some of the able-bodied community enter, ask, and communicate. It's like you're invisible in some ways, especially when it comes to dating and being in a chair. You know, if you want to know while we're in the chair, don't ask what's wrong with you. Ask why are you in a wheelchair, because we can explain that. You know, we know we're in a wheelchair. That people think that we don't know and we've never been asked the question, you know, why are you in a wheelchair? That's the thing that irritates me. And you're looking at me as you know, as if you're going to stare a hole right through me. And I see you. You know, if you ask me what's wrong with me, I'm going to turn around and say, I don't know. What's wrong with you? You want to let me know? I mean, that's, you know, I'm going to fight fire with fire, so to speak. But here's...
There's also a time and place. Like if that's going to be your first question to me, like, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm not, okay, you don't even know me. Like, I'm not going to tell you, like, the whole life story. Like, you got to get to know me first. Like, you got to establish a relationship before we get into that.
Exactly. That's not the first question you want to answer right off the bat. Can I tell you my name first? Hi, how are you? That's the thing. People just jump right in there, or they ask those personal questions right off the bat. Like, you know, I've had a conversation like, are you able to have, are you able to have children? I'm like, oh, well, I don't have them. I help make them, but it's just, that whole situation there. But, yeah, I think there needs to be a line of communication before you get into, the personal side of your story. Now, so we talked a little bit about before the show about spastic chatter. Now, you sometimes get the haters on spastic chatter, and you talked a little bit about that, but they're mainly in the disability community, you told me.
Yes, it's all about. Okay, I'm very sarcastic, and like I don't use the correct medical terms and like all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be the first one to admit it. And I've come into my own where I think that using terminology like I'm disabled and the disability first terminology is has got to be empowering for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like you're taking ownership of that label and putting a positive connotation to it as rather than a negative.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then again, not everybody thinks like that.
Right.
So I've gotten some hate on some recent episodes, but I try to remind people that it's okay that we think differently, that we can still come together as a community and support each other.
Right. Hey, JP, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. It's okay that you're late, brother. We all get here when we can. Thanks for tuning in, and we appreciate having you. As far as, and I love the show, the show title, because Spastic Chatter, if you think about it, because you talked about it, a little bit in the show when we first started, you have to, and I know you kind of personally as well, because we've talked quite a bit. When you talk, you have to really focus on what you're doing because you have to push that air out. And sometimes it seems like you're almost out of breath when you talk. And it's like that there's spasticity there too. So I understand what you're talking about. Your whole thought of cerebral palsy, you deal with spasticity in every way. So it's spastic chatter makes sense to me, but somebody who thinks that you're using that word in the wrong context, and I understand what you mean. Everybody's going to go, you know what, you shouldn't talk like that. That's not good. I don't like it. You're being demeaning. No, you're not being demeaning. You're being honest. And if people look at what you're saying and the topics that you cover on your show, not that everybody's going to talk in a country accent, dang, 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 dang. I'm not saying that, but I mean, it's just you have people that think in a very, very narrow-minded way, and it's not, they're not the open-minded. I mean, there's some things that people can't talk about because they're scared of it. What would you say is the most interesting thing for you about spastic chatter? Because I've got a question beyond that as well after this.
The most interesting thing, well, indeed, that you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, conversation, man. We're gonna dive into spastic chatter a little bit because I love the show. I've seen most of your episodes, and I think they're phenomenal because there's a side of humor to CP, but I just want to. What do you? I'll put it like this. What do you like most about it? I think you answered that a little bit earlier. Is it just the people you get to talk to and the platform that you have, or is there something really specific?
It's the people it's the community that I've noticed is out there. But if on a personal level, I just released the 30th episode on Monday, and if you go back to the first episode, I can notice it. You notice that I changed in my confidence as I'm interviewing people, and like I come in, I'm very, like, my speech, it's gotten easier the more people that I've interviewed because I'm more comfortable. So, like, the whole, like, it kind of plays into the chatter. Like, I get more comfortable as the more people I interview, and, like, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
it does. It's just like doing this radio show. When I did the first Sports Minion radio show, I was like, oh my god, I got to get everything right, and I got to make sure to cover every topic, and oh my god, I've only got an hour, and it's gonna go so fast, and oh my god, I'm talking like William Shatner. I don't know why, but I just am, and and as you get into the story of the show and start interviewing people and have guests. My first guest, I was so nervous because I felt like I had to ask them all the right questions. And when it started becoming a conversation and I started having fun with it, that's when it became my show. My CP Does Not Define Me is probably the biggest icebreaker conversation starter I have. And they say, well, wait a minute, your CP does define you. And that's exactly what starts the conversation, because in some ways it honestly does. In some ways my CP does define me. And in some ways, Whitney, I believe that spastic chatter defines you because it has brought that confidence out of you. And I've seen it in our live chats, in our CP Sunrise Zoom meetings. I mean, I've seen a lot of that, and I love it because you're able to, bring out the questions that nobody else will. And you'll hit them, out of the park, which brings me to my next question. What would you say has been your most difficult? Hey, Christina, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. What has been your most difficult topic, would you say, on Spastic Chatter?
my most difficult topic, when the dating relationships, so it can be a difficult one. That's one of the most talked about topics. But there's so many different perspectives on it. But another thing is that when I find it challenging that I have to constantly remind myself, no matter what we're talking about, people have different perspectives on a whole range of topics, and like we don't have I don't have to agree with every guest I have.
Exactly.
You just have to remind yourself to be respectful, to get their voice out there. And if they're not hurting anybody, and if they're not like demeaning anyone, that's their story to tell.
Yeah, I understand that to a point, and that's kind of actually JP just put a big comment up here that I want to read, and he said, we were talking about how we address people that ask us about our disability earlier. He said, I've learned to be careful. Often I will make fun of my own disability in front of others as an icebreaker, or try and make new people comfortable around me. It sometimes backfires and makes them uncomfortable and shuts them down instead. See, some people, that's a great comment, JP. Hey, Josh, thank you for tuning in. That's a great one. And a lot of people are not comfortable inside their own skin because they feel like they have to be somebody they're not, or they have to impress people. And I've felt that way too. I felt like, I've had I'm going to never be accepted. But as far as dating and relationships, now that one there, like you said, is it's a very difficult topic all around, because, and I can't speak for the whole disabled community or the whole differently abled community or the cerebral palsy community, but I know a lot of people that I've spoken with have said, I don't know if there's anybody out there for me. I've tried dating, not me, but I've tried dating and it just doesn't work, and then when I say, well, I'm married and I've been married for 5 years, they're like, what? You've been married? Oh my God, you got married, but you got CP. You're not supposed to do that. You broke the rules. And I'm like, really? I didn't know there was a golden rule that said you can't get married. If you show it to me, I'd like to see it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel that, some people say, that some people that are disabled want to date an able-bodied person that can walk. Some people that are disabled feel that they can date another person that has a disability. Would have you? I mean, all right. So let me ask you this: talking about disability and dating, and I know this is reflective on CP Chatter because I remember this episode specifically. But would you now, as far as your dating preference? I know you're with someone right now, but did you go through the? Am I going to date someone with a disability, or am I going to date someone able-bodied, or kind of that process of elimination?
Oh, totally. I was the spokesperson for I'm gonna date able-bodied. No disabled people for me. Like I don't play super cards. I was all about dating a able-bodied person.
Mm-hmm.
And then, lo and behold, I get the message from a guy in a wheelchair, and we just clicked, and my twin actually is the one that was like, if you don't talk to him, you're crazy. Like I sent her a message. I was like, this guy, I really like him, but he's in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, Whitney, she's like, Whitney, that's being very judgmental. Like you need to take a second. You need to take a second, reflect on yourself. Like, and we're almost 2 years in now. We're engaged. Like, the love of my life. Like, and he's in a wheelchair, and I would never have pictured this being my life.
Yeah. I mean, and that's so. Let me ask you this, and I know you've reflected this as well, guys. I've known Whitney for a long time, and that's the thing. It's really. I know a lot of the answers to these questions, but I want Let Go Radio to know, and I want people to know what was, when you were going through it and you first met him. What were your concerns with you being disabled and him being disabled as well? And you can say his name if you want.
His name was Devin.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern, and I think it's because society puts this like, I don't know if you want to call it stigma, but
Stereotype. Stereotype.
The disabled need somebody to take care of them.
Right.
So I was looking for an able-bodied partner to take care of me. And I was like, well, I don't want to date somebody with a disability because then they're not going to be able to take care of me. Like, but then dating Devin, it's so much more rewarding to me because I've dated able-bodied and then I've dated Devin, and for me, it's like my able-bodied partners, they just didn't understand.
They didn't get it. They didn't get it. Yeah.
They didn't get that not having a caregiver, that's rewarding to me. They saw me, they looked at me and saw that I struggled. And to me, I don't struggle, it's just normal.
Right.
And Devin gets that totally.
Right. So to we got about 12 minutes left in the show, and I really want to hit this home because this is so powerful. This has been a great episode so far. I love this. I'm going to have you back for a part 2, Whitney, because you're getting comments left and right. Ben said this was my exact thought as well. And there was, JP said dated both. There are advantages to both. And in the end, it's the person that complements your weakness. And that is so true. How did you overcome the is this person going to be able to take care of me? Because with you both being disabled, there has to be some challenges but there is strengths as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we just clicked. Like, it was just like an instant. Honestly, it was an instant. You're my person. Like, after a week, we just knew. And me and Devin and I have different disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So we have different abilities. So like, what I can't do, he can do, and what he struggles with, I can help him. So we kind of play off each other.
What is Devin's disability?
Muscular dystrophy.
Okay. And where are some of his struggles that you help, and where are some of your struggles that he helps with?
To be honest, I would say that I would say that he helps me more than I help him. But like the only thing that he can't do is, well, maybe raise his arms up above his head,
Mm-hmm.
and I have problems with that too sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So we work together. We work together, like, to make it like. So we do it as a we did the job as a 2-person job.
Right.
And probably could have been done like 2 seconds for one person, if that makes sense.
That, and you hear something, and people say it sounds cheesy, but teamwork makes the dream work, and that is the honest truth, because you look at Emily and myself, and Emily has spina bifida. We've been married for 5 years. We celebrated our 5-year anniversary on September the 26th of this year, and it's amazing. I have to have help with socks and shoes and different things like that. And where I struggle, she is so helpful. And where she struggles, she doesn't budget. She has problems, some of the problems with her memory. I can help with numbers and things like that. But
Yeah.
she's very smart. But again, there are struggles that every relationship has, and that's why it's so important what JP just said. When you find somebody that loves you for you, when you find somebody that fits in your mold, that gets where you're coming from, that understands your disability because they have one too. It's not the same. Muscular dystrophy is horrible. That is a beast of a disability. And to be able to support him and him to support you, and both hold up each other when you're both about to fall, that's what life is about. Ben said this: if you were in a relationship with 3 disabled people, in my experience, you don't have to look at them as kangaroos, but let's see. Wow. But you have to look at the person who's helping you in the relationship as your arms and legs. Look at them as, you were doing the same task that the person is, and doing it for you. If that makes sense. I've dated a girl who was a C4 and C5 quadriplegic, and the best relationship you ever had. And again, that's what Ben just covered, was talking about where one person struggles, and Whitney just said it as well, where one person struggles, the other person is able to make it a 2-person job, and it's much easier. Many hands make light work, and I agree with that. So I'm so happy that you found Devin, because I've seen you two together, and having laughter in a relationship, I think, is key. And your sense of humor is great. I think Devin's sense of humor is great. I think the type of people that you two are a prime example of what for lack of better terms, disabled couple is all about. Because I don't think you see. Do you see yourself as disabled, Whitney?
If you would have asked me that when I was younger, I would have said no. But as I got older, yes, I've had to come to terms with, yes, I am disabled. Yes, there are things I cannot do. Yes, I need help with certain things. But if you would have asked Whitney in high school, she'd been like, oh no, I'm not disabled. I can just do things differently. bend over backwards trying to do things that I cannot physically do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and see, here's the things. Everybody has trouble doing something, and there's the things that everybody cannot do. Am I going to climb Mount Everest? No. Could I climb Mount Everest? Possibly. Am I going to jump rope and play hopscotch? No. Nope, sorry. Ain't going to happen. It is what it is. I'm okay with that. And being okay with your own limitations, but having no limits. See, and a lot of people don't understand that. Do you know what I mean by having no limits, but understanding your limitations?
It's a hard concept to follow, and like it's taken me years of maturity to get that concept, to like be able to understand that concept.
Yeah. What I mean, just to quickly share it, everybody has things they have trouble with. Everybody has things they can't do. Understanding that it's okay that you can't do everything the way you necessarily want to, but not letting that stop you to accomplish your dreams is what I mean by being limitless with your limitations. And like you said, it's a hard concept to understand. Well, we've got about 4 minutes left in the show, and if you don't mind, Whitney, would you share with people how they can get a hold of you and leave an encouraging word for our listeners on Let Go Radio and Facebook Live?
You can get a hold of me on any social media platform. It's at Wheelchair Wit, and I would some encouraging advice. It would be just to take a risk and not have that feel of failure, because if you take a risk, the worst I always say the worst thing that can happen is that you get that answer no, or you get some kind of, you always grow from taking risks.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. Well, guys, real quick, again, her information is at Wheelchair Wit on every social media platform, and the show is her show is Spastic Chatter, and that airs on Mondays. Guys, you can get a hold of me at My CP Does Not Define Me on YouTube, Chairmaster Games on YouTube. You can also get a hold of me at Cooking with Worth the Wait, Cooking with DJ Carter. You can get a hold of me on Instagram, My CP Does Not Define Me, Twitter, My CP Does Not Define Me at Minion Sports, Facebook, DJ Carter, my new blog, CarterDJ85 at wix.com/mysite1. I think that covers just about everything. Guys, we've had a great show today. Whitney, I'd love to have you back again. If you want to come back, we'll schedule it.
Totally. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, this has been a great show, and we've gotten so many comments. Ben said, you're awesome. Patty, thank you for joining us. Please be sure to go back and watch the show. It was a great show today. Whitney, we love you to death. Thank you so much for being with us. As I say, I'm DJ, D to the J with a roll away, and you can tune in every Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time to check. This was episode 27. I'm almost at 30. We're going to be at episode 28 next week for My CP Does Not Define Me. So please tune in on www.letgoradio.net and Facebook Live. And most of all, share this bad boy. If you've been on the show today, please do us a favor and share this episode. We want to get it out there. We want to get this thing known, and we want to blow this platform out of the water. And you can accomplish anything if you work hard enough, because remember, your attitude reflects your altitude. And with the right attitude, there's no telling how high you can go. Guys, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the C to the Dr. J and D to the J with the roll away. So we'll see you soon next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on My CP Does Not Define Me. Take it easy, everybody.